I've realised there's a little
what is that?
something. Yeah.
And they can't see that.
No, so I could have been talking about anything. But here we go. Avoiding hitting everything. This has appeared. Camera 2. I don't know if you can see that. I won't say what I said I thought it was when I first got here, but should I... This is where we need the wide shot, really, isn't it, to open it?
Don't worry. I think the plan is to bring back the wide shot.
We are bringing back the wide shot, yes.
We're just listening to feedback.
We are always listening to feedback. It was very kind of this young man to buy me something, which he didn't need to.
For context, this isn't just a random present. This is a birthday present.
21st birthday present, would you believe? Christ. Is it Fran Park? You do know you bought it.
I do know, but I don't want to spoil it.
You might want to edit this bit out.
This is good podcasting.
Good ASMR,
isn't it? Keep it. This is perfect podcasting, this is.
Oh, my word. Hang on, we're not in yet.
Oh. Now, this is what they sign up for. This is why it's free.
Right. Now we're in. And we're about to see... Oh, it's engraved in something. Oh, it is Fran Park.
It's not damaged.
Yeah. No, it's not damaged. And...
That looks better than it looked on...
in the whole shot there. Look. Oh, there we go.
Big question, have you got one already?
Nope. So that is going up on the wall.
I thought we could get...
How I'm going to get it up, because it's just a wooden slab. But I'll put some kind of fixing on it.
That looks better than I thought it did.
That's very kind of you. Thank you for that.
No, well, you do a lot. You do a lot. You travel up 2 hours to...
Do a little bit.
Yeah, so I thought...
I wouldn't have it any other way, though, mate.
That is nice. That looks better in person.
Bear with me while I get rid of the garbage.
As always, this show is brought to you by Wooden Grounds, the amazing people at Wooden Grounds. Matt has, again, as always, sponsoring these shows every single month. And look, these are just brilliant. We're going to put a little bit of overlay footage as well. You get a really closer look at them. This is the Kassam Stadium version. You'd have seen behind Tom's head over the last couple of months that he's got the map version. That'll be on the screen now, so you can take a good look at them. He's got a real bunch of Championship ones. I imagine there'll be quite a few Championship fans watching this type of video, but he's also got Premier League ones too. Maybe you've got some Premier League fans or friends and family. They are the perfect gifts for Christmas, for birthdays, anything like that. They are absolutely brilliant, and you can get a discount code yourself, JWARD10, for 10% off, which essentially stops any delivery fees. That's what that does. And as we know in this day and age, delivery fees are a pain in the backside. So make sure you go and get them. And once again, Wooden Grounds, thank you so much for that. Let's start with the impressive teams, Tom, because we have had a busy month, and we said coming into this show, we said it, I think we say it in every single reflection, they are unpredictable. There are going to be teams in different categories, and if you're not mentioned this time, you will definitely be mentioned again, because it's ever-changing.
It is.
But we've got some teams to speak about. There's some really impressive teams this month in the Championship. You're going to hit us underway with a team that you've watched in person.
Yes.
And that's Burnley. And I've watched them in person yesterday too.
You watched them in person yesterday. I've also got another side coming up that I watched in person yesterday. Of course, yes, Burnley, a side I've seen in the flesh. The Premier League quality was very much on display. I think Pompey actually gave them a good run for their money in the first half at Turf Moor, stayed in the game second half, and then sucker punch right at the end. There's not an awful lot you can do about that. Obviously, it's difficult to say that, isn't it? There is a lot you can do about it, but then when it happens and when it's sucker punch that style, I think the sucker punch is exactly the kind of characteristic that might well take Burnley to where they want to be and help them achieve what they want to achieve this season. And finding a way is an absolute cornerstone of a successful season in English football, as we know, because there is always going to be days, and I think you might be able to tell me about a day yesterday whereby isn't plain sailing. Be that the opposition you play against, how much of a difficult time they make it, players not completely being on their mettle, etc. I think to take the month as a whole, as we always do here on Jam, massive win at Ellen Road. Only a handful of select clubs will take all 3 points from there this season. The turnaround win against us and the fashion that they executed it in, of course, albeit we were perhaps unlucky not to take at least a point. Certainly, I think the most we've deserved out of an away game this season so far, this campaign. And then, yes, you, of course, saw them yesterday.
I did. They will leave the game frustrated because they are Burnley and they're going to Oxford United, and they will feel as though they should beat us. I think that's probably what a lot of teams will feel like going into the game against Oxford this season, and we're okay with that. I think there's points where we would actually see the benefits of that. Would I say they were complacent? No. Do I think they missed loads of chances? No, I don't. They had more of the ball, comfortably. They did have more shots. They did show more attacking intent. But that wasn't a surprise. We didn't go into that game thinking that wouldn't be the case. And the reason why Burnley are going to be frustrated is because at times it felt like it was quite passive and it was a little bit samey. It was trying the same thing over and over again. And they were coming up against a really strong Oxford United back four that pretty much stopped everything they tried to do. They limited them to very, very little chances. I mean, if you look at the XG, I think it's 1 point something. But when you have, I think, 17, 18 shots that they had, that is going to be the case. Was I really impressed by them? No, I wasn't. But I have been impressed by Burnley this season. I have been impressed by them over the course of this month in particular. And there'll be days where it doesn't come off. And there'll be days where they don't score every chance. They've been so clinical this season. They beat Cardiff 5-0 earlier in the season. We spoke about how clinical they were. And they weren't amazing in that game. I think that was almost another flip side to that. They didn't look great against Oxford United. But they missed those chances. Or they didn't take every chance they had. And they obviously come away with just a singular point.
Who else have you been impressed by this month?
Swansea, which is funny because they've actually won every game in September. They've played twice in September.
A little bit sort of going about their business quietly. That's not been headline news, has it? That Swansea have won every game in September, albeit not a massive...
Yeah, we're not working with the biggest sample size. Yeah. We're working with 2 games, right? But we're working with 2 good results against a good Norwich team and a Coventry team, and a Norwich team that could easily have been in this category, by the way, because we've both been very impressed by them, especially in the last couple of weeks. They definitely do deserve a mention in some capacity.
Big win yesterday, yeah.
But Swansea beat Norwich, they beat Coventry also, and they're playing today. So they will play 3 games in September. We're filming this on the Sunday. They're playing on the Sunday afternoon against Bristol City.
What's the prediction?
So this could be a complete waste of time if Swansea if they lose
they've
this
got
game.
a mention. So,
but they deserve to have a mention because although the league table after 6 games or 7 games for everybody else other than Swansea and Bristol City is maybe slightly misleading, but they're in a really strong position. They've got a really good points return, and important they're playing a really good brand of football. And with Luke Williams in charge, that's not a surprise. He's a really progressive, intelligent manager. And I thought their recruitment was strong. I was very impressed by the recruitment. It was niche. It was quite worldwide. And they've managed to integrate those players fantastically well and look good. They've looked good. So, again, I think they could be a team to watch out for because they picked up some really good results in September and they could have picked up a quite perfect September if they get a result today. So, Swansea, maybe the sample size isn't the biggest. And if you look at the league table this early, you might not totally understand where we're going with this. But on the eye as well, and the expectation of Swansea over the last couple of years, I think they definitely deserve a mention. They've been impressive.
I said to you downstairs over lunch that the league table hasn't quite taken shape yet. I still think and you use the word misleading, which I think is great. And I think that there are a number of examples across this division whereby there are clubs right now that are in a false position, be that in a positive way or be that in a sort of an underachieving way. One final team that I've been very impressed with, albeit in person, wasn't blown away, to coin a phrase, was Sheffield United. We, of course, headed into the game yesterday knowing what a tall order that was going to be, what a championship super team they've assembled there, and that we were coming up against. I think you can make a really strong argument for Sheffield United having the best midfield in this division. I think it's probably an argument that football fans will want to have because everyone wants their team to be the best, but I think there's very little you can level against Sheffield United in that particular department. They also won the window on this channel, in this room, didn't they, a little while ago, so I think that speaks volumes. You got Vinny D'Souza, Raksaki, Gus Hamer, usually Ollie Arblaster, but not yesterday and not for a couple of weeks now, I don't think. I don't know when he's going to be back. Deadly and delicious from that point of view. I'll be interested to see what Blades fans think about this because a question I have is, obviously they've lived and breathed it all and they will have seen it and are much closer to it than both you and I are. Is it a better 11 than that of the Premier League days of the team that went down that they were putting out? Up for debate, I'm sure. There's a few nuances and differences and perhaps over the summer holes were plugged where they needed to be. You look at the likes of Harrison Burrows coming in, for example. Are they a better side than the one that went down? I'm not sure. 3 wins on the trot before the trip to Pompey yesterday held them to a point, which will come on to Pompey later on. I was extremely encouraged and proud of that. 4 goals across those games as well. And actually, goals without reply and doing enough in games to win them. Just such a well-oiled machine and such a tasty-looking fixture on Friday the 18th of October. Blockbuster, Leeds Sheffield United, covered here on Jam whenever we get round to it. I'm assuming you're going to want to do some kind of
Yeah, I think we will. I think we will do some kind of video on it. Yeah, it's going to be set up to be quite fiery, to be quite feisty, and two teams that are in a really good place right now.
Absolutely.
And again, we speak about it being impressive. We touch on the teams like West Brom who've ticked along nicely. Not a good result for them against Sheffield Wednesday yesterday, but they've ticked along nicely. And this is a section where you almost have to be quite harsh and quite straightforward in the fact that, you know, West Brom have won 2 out of their 3 games in September, but they're top of the table, so of course they've been impressive. But it's about shining a light on the teams that don't always get a mention, and that's what we want to do here. We want to bring that coverage to other teams, and sometimes it's not always positive. Hence why, when we speak about the teams that have underwhelmed us, we've got to touch on 3 clubs in particular.
Do you want to talk about... Should we talk about the elephant in the room? Because it is...
Go on.
I think Pompey and the word underwhelming, I think, is a little bit of a harsh brush to paint with us. Factoring yesterday in the heart and spirit, of course, and Dan in my video yesterday used the word application, and the way that we applied ourselves and the commitment shown was really something to marvel at. And I also said that I think we did absolutely everything other than score the goal, which I think we were probably just about value for as well in the game. I don't want to keep making the argument. We've had the discussion already today. We have cited that run of fixtures, which is probably as tough as it gets all over the English football pyramid in terms of a start. But as you quite rightly batted back to me, you can't use that as the salient reason behind the lack of results. Like from now, so at the time of recording, from now, Pompey can no longer make that argument as a whole because the run of games is significantly easier than the run that we've just had. I think Pompey fans would agree yesterday is very much the last game of that core. Blimey, that's a really tough run. Actually, October really needs to be the making of us and the making of Pompey in the Championship overall, and we really ought to get head of steam and get the results going. One thing I will then say to that is it is absolutely imperative not to pile the pressure on, because this next run of games, Stoke yourselves, QPR, Cardiff, Hull, the list goes on. I feel we run the risk of treating them as easier fixtures to get points from. Then as a result, you drop points, become counterintuitive and redundant of us to make any argument in the first place. So every single game is going to be as difficult as the last. That's the way you have to treat it. It's the Championship, as we all know. And after all, we just can't lose sight of the fact that we are in a league whereby you fight for absolutely everything. And I'm not saying that wasn't the case in League One. What I am saying is Pompey would have probably snuck that game 1-0 yesterday in League One because of do you remember the amount of times we won a last minute 1-0 that papered over the cracks but actually meant that we won the league as champions? That didn't happen because of the level of opposition, because Sheffield United are a fantastic side, but also the wind's not quite in our sails yet. That gust of confidence, I hope, has come from yesterday. To take into the next couple of weeks, because October is big for us. I mean, literally make or break time, really, at this early stage, I think.
We're far too early to ask this question. Take this the right way. Are you worried about... Okay, I'll reword it. There's 3 teams that get relegated.
Yep.
Cardiff look terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're looking at teams that have struggled, Cardiff, I think we've banned that drum. A lot of people have banned that drum. It's obvious. They haven't got a manager. They got thumped yesterday by Hull City.
Yep.
They've been really, really poor.
I want to talk about them in a minute, I think, or later on.
We've got a few teams as well, because there's been quite a few honking teams during this month, to be honest. Preston as well. They had a bit of a bounce with Heckingbottom, and it was a very small bounce. They almost stepped on the trampoline and it fell apart again. They won that first game under Heckingbottom, and since then they haven't won. They've lost 2 and drawn 2.
Yeah.
So that isn't looking great either. We absolutely rinsed Wayne Rooney a couple of weeks ago.
We did, which I think we're going to have to eat our words.
And
it's the title of this, we need an apology for Plymouth fans, or we need to apologise to Wayne Rooney, something like that. We haven't actually discussed the title, have we?
We haven't, and that I imagine will come out of this show. But again, they don't look like a side that at the moment are fodder or look like they're really, really struggling.
Did you watch the game on Friday?
I did watch it, and I thought they were really impressive. I thought Luton were poor, but I thought they were really impressive. And Luton, another side that are really having a quite tricky start. So what the question I come to in a long-winded answer is, are you concerned about some teams that we thought might be down there that aren't down there? And do you see the teams that are down there currently being there come the end of the season? Because, I mean, Portsmouth, at the moment, they are one of 2 teams that haven't won a game.
Ask me in the next episode of Jam, and I'll give you an answer to that. We've got this month now. I think you're right. I think you're right, but I think I would also say we're 6 games in, and I would come back to the point that I made about the table hasn't taken shape yet. Let Pompey get a bash at a run of games that are much more winnable than the 6 or 7 we've just had, and we'll have this conversation in the next episode of Jam. How about that for an answer? You happy with that?
Sure. The reason why I asked that question is because, for example, I don't see Coventry finishing down there. They're down there now. I don't see Luton.
But they were poor.
They were poor.
Yesterday.
They're poor. No one saw Luton starting this badly, and they're down there currently. Cardiff haven't got a manager yet. God knows what's going on with Preston. Stoke have already had a new manager. It's a really strange bottom half.
Could you then argue, though, that maybe in different circumstances, Pompey would have a couple of extra points than they do have, and we'd maybe be talking about them in a slightly higher position? On another day, that Middlesbrough game goes differently. The Leeds game goes differently. Luton against 10 men. There's games where we've been 95, 96% of the way there and then had the game completely snatched from glory in the most emphatic of styles. So I think if you're going to talk about, are you worried that these teams are down there when they maybe shouldn't be, maybe the answer would be, well, maybe Pompey shouldn't be down there either. So, as I say, let's let the table work itself out.
It's
early, but I like the fact that you've asked the question.
It's early because you have to ask it.
I don't like the discussion, but I know exactly what you're saying, and I think October will be the making of us. And I was about to say I can't wait to come back here. I always look forward to coming back here, but I look forward to having the discussion next month. So, particularly given that we play each other as well, which is always fun.
Coventry is strange at the moment.
Have you written them down as a team to go through? Because
I have.
Right.
And they lost again, but by the way, we always do this prep a couple of days before, and because we film on a Sunday at the time, we're doing this on the Friday. This game's on a Saturday, and unfortunately, Coventry they weren't playing. They fell into our curse again, but actually they didn't, because we had them down as underwhelming teams, and they did again underwhelm us against Leeds, albeit against Leeds. And look, they are a really, really good side. I saw some Leeds fans still not happy.
There's a lot of them.
I can't get my head around it. I understand. Fans, you pay your money, you go to the game, you watch them. High expectations. They beat Cardiff 2-0 last week, and I saw this narrative that it was the worst 2-0 ever. I'm like, I know someone opposite me that would absolutely snap your hand off of the worst 2-0 win ever. And I saw some things about a 3-0 win, and I get it. The underlying numbers, did they batter them? No. Was it plain sailing? Actually, did they batter? I think they did. They had total control. The key moments.
I don't think they like watching their team play very much. I don't think it's particularly easy on the eye. That's the main argument.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the possession, for example, in that game against Coventry yesterday. This is about Coventry, so we'll come back to it in a second. But they did have maybe less of the ball. But then I've heard sometimes that Leeds have had all the ball and not doing anything with it. But now they're having less of the ball. Yeah. So look, from a Coventry perspective, it's still a very, very tricky game. They have lost 3-0. That's not the reason why we put them in this underwhelming category, to be honest. I think everybody knew that Leeds away was going to be a really, really tricky game. It's the fact that they've just looked really, really poor in their last 5, to be honest. And the last time that they actually won a game, if I'm not mistaken, was against Oxford United back on the 16th of August.
Which feels like a lifetime ago.
And for us, I mean, God knows what it's like from a Coventry perspective. From our perspective, that feels like a long time ago, and we've won since then. So if you haven't won a game,
that is their only league win, by the way, as well.
It's not good. It's not good, and I think they invested.
They've lost more games than we have.
True, that's a good way of putting it. And they're only 1 point better off. And so you look at the teams they're playing. They've had some tricky games. Norwich have grown into the season. Bristol City have looked a little bit here and there. They lost to Stoke on the opening day, and since then Stoke have absolutely fallen apart. Like I say, Swansea looking good shape at the moment. Leeds are always tough. So look, the games haven't been easy, but we're in the Championship, and that will work from an Oxford, Pompey, and Derby new boy perspective. But it works for everybody else as well. This is a brutal division. You can't rest on your laurels. You have to be at it from the start of the season to the end if you've got the expectations that Coventry have. Financially they were back. They've got a really good manager in Mark Robbins.
They're going to be absolutely fine.
And I think they will come good. They've been slow starters before. They were slow starters last season. They missed out, which is why everybody thought that start strong Coventry because you will come good, and they haven't been able to do that, and that would be the biggest concern. But yeah, disappointing start for them. Not just in the month. The month has been poor, but the entire season so far, it has felt a little bit flat. I mean, they were pretty much non-existent going forward in that game against Leeds. They're missing something. They're lacking something. They need a big result. And you look at their next month, and we'll come back and discuss it in October. They've got Blackburn. They've got 2 big home games. They've got Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday back-to-back. So get that home form back on. There's 2 really good opportunities to do that. Not easy games because Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday both won yesterday. But get that home form back on track. That was their only win this season's come at home. And then they can try and kick on in October. But disappointed by Coventry.
Should we talk new boys? I didn't assign myself Derby, did I? We sort of had a discussion. I think it's been, the word decent springs to mind in terms of describing a start for Derby. Of course, this is just another month. Yesterday we were watching a couple of bits back from the game just now. Paul Warren's boyhood club, of course, always a special one for him. They'll be more than seething, I think, by how that the ball that wasn't out that was. 2 horrendous decisions going against them yesterday. What I am, and that's unfortunately, and I think Paul Warren will probably be one of the first people to say this, but that's an uncontrollable in this division, unfortunately. There is only so much you can do to prevent stuff like that from happening. Yes, you just hope the laws of the game are applied on a consistent and correct basis, but unfortunately and that's not a discussion for Jam, because I don't think it's this kind of show, but and something that Sam mentioned to me yesterday, is a guy I sit behind at Fratton Park, who's obviously features on the channel a lot, said the actual standard of refereeing and officiating is probably worse than it was in League One coming up. And I think that's something that we've seen so far. Maybe there's a correlation with the results and the points that we've got there, but I think maybe Derby fans could be feeling the same. What I'm liking the most about Derby is goal involvements all over the pitch. Nathaniel Mendes-Lang, Kane Jackson, the obvious 2, but you look at it, Callum Elder, who I appreciate now has a groin issue, don't know how long he's going to be out for, Curtis Nelson involved in assists and goals respectively. Craig Forsyth, goal and assist. Blackett Taylor with his first goal of the season yesterday too. So they're doing the inverse of a Pompey right now, which is whereby we're literally scratching around for people to put the ball in the back of the net or have that last little bit of final third quality, flair, creativity. Derby have got that in abundance already so far this season, all over the pitch from what it looks like. And I know it's easy to look at that from an outside broad point of view, and game by game maybe that doesn't feel like it's quite as rife as it is, but it's certainly something I've noticed. Other than Sunderland away on Tuesday, the fixture list for them is actually looking pretty kind for the next few weeks, so an opportunity for Paul Warren's side to really pick up some momentum, get a run going. I think they're more than capable of doing that. Do you think Derby are happy with 7 games in, Derby, you're 13th, you're 9 points, score 10. Yeah. I mean, in terms of middle of the road, score 10, conceded 10, 9 points, 7 games played. I think happy days.
I think they'd be really, really pleased with that. Also, I think it's very, very clear that the games are tight. The games are really tight. 3-2 loss, 1-0 loss, Sheffield United, 1-0 win. They did beat Bristol City 3-0, which is fantastic. 2-1 defeat, 1-0 win, 2-1 in the cup, albeit still very tight. And then we know that what happened on the opening day, they did lose quite heavily. We were quite concerned about that. But since that 4-2 defeat to Blackburn, I also didn't know what Blackburn were going to be. And they've looked strong since then. So the games are clearly quite tight. That's what Paul Warren's all about. Fine margins. And the fine margins went against them quite heavily, out of their control yesterday, for example, against Norwich. But they look in good shape. They're an organised unit. They're not going to be sexy. They're not going to break records for the most passes completed in games. That's just not them. Then they're not looking to do that. They understand who they are, the team they've got, and the manager that they've got, and they're working with what they have to their disposal and the expectations to stay up. And at the moment, they're on course, 7 games in, but showing the ingredients to give that a really, really good go. I'm really pleased with Oxford United this month. I really, really am. And I think you have to look at what the games we've played. We knew that this month was going to be trickier, and every month, actually, regarding the fixture list, is going to be trickier because you've got to go again. You know, it's tough, it's hard work, it's out of possession, lots of running. It's brutal. The games are quicker. Every month is more difficult, and I think that's the takeaway. And that's what I've learned. Every game is a bit cliche, but it's a cup final. Every game you've got to be up for it. You've got to give everything. And Des Buckley spoke about it in a recent interview. He said that he walks away from every championship game and he doesn't play the games. He's knackered. He is tired because it's a mental. As fans, we're mentally exhausted after a 0-0 draw against Burnley. What's he like? Yeah. He's had a week to prepare for a game against a team that have spent millions and millions of pounds, that have been a Premier League outfit for years and years. We're in the European conversation a few years ago with Sean Dyche, maybe more than a few years ago. But you get the idea. It's a massive, massive, well-backed football club financially. And also, compared to Oxford United, it's an extremely big football club, full stop. So, look, it does feel exhausting. But taking away just that result, and looking at the whole month, so happy with it because... Look, we're going to lose games. The most important thing is our home form continues to be a bit of a fortress. We spoke about teams staying up, and it's going to be the same with Pompey. Eventually, when it does come, your home form is going to be pivotal. Your home form has to be good.
It's our USP. It absolutely is.
You've got to, regardless of who you are, you've got to be feared when you're playing at home.
John Messino said after the game that he wants it to be a nasty place for teams to come, and he didn't mind using the word nasty either.
It has got to be that. It's got to be intimidating, and everybody will sort of laugh at that and go, well, it's Oxford, it's the Cassar. It's not intimidating always about the atmosphere. It's about the players you're playing against at home. At the moment, I think, and Tyler Goodrum said it himself in another interview, is they believe they can win every game at home. And you sort of you go, Tyler, we've played Preston, we've played Stoke, we've played Norwich, we played Burnley, and you go... I think Oxford genuinely believe they could get something out of that game. Look, they defended absolutely impeccably. And we did. They defended impeccably, Oxford United. It was an out-of-possession masterclass, and we've seen that all season. It's been a huge plus to us that without the ball, we're just as good as we are with it.
Yep.
Our away form has to improve, and we've got 2 away games against Luton and Pompey coming up, so that will have to get better. I think that game is bigger for you than it is us, but don't get me wrong, we're going to want to go there and believe that we can get something, and let's take it game by game. Luton's going to be tricky, and we don't know what Luton are. No one knows what Luton are. At the moment, on the eye, not great. So let's take it as it comes, but if we're looking at the Oxford United of September, we're pleased. We're happy. We're looking at that block again, and we come out of it with a level of pride and excitement that this journey does continue. Because the fear was you start strong and you fall away, and we're talking about September, October, and we've sort of fizzled away. But that's not the case.
We're going to pick out some players that have impressed us this month. My 2 are Gus Hamer and Tom Fellows. I know I've already mentioned Sheffield United, so I'll keep it relatively brief on Gus Hamer. I thought he had quite a quiet afternoon yesterday for him, and massive credit to Zach Swanson for the part he played in that. I think September overall, it's probably harder to find a better performer than Gus Hamer in the Championship, and I know there will be some, and we should always say at this point, as we always do, there'll be a player that we don't mention here that you think, oh my word, how have they not mentioned him? Put it in the comments, let us know. Please be nice about it though, because we can't cover everything, or we can't cover absolutely everything, and if the player that you have in mind that we haven't mentioned is performing on a consistent enough basis, by and large, there's a very good chance that he will get into Jam at some point. The biggest compliment I think I can pay to Gus Hamer is I don't quite know how he's a Championship player. He's got Premier League quality written all over him, and best player on the pitch for Blades, wins against Derby and Watford as well. Tom Fellows, I really like. He's a bit of an old school winger, isn't he? Although he's very young, he's a bit of an old school winger, and he was involved in the opener at Fratton Park a few weeks ago, which feels like ages ago, in what's a really fresh, modern setup at West Brom that we know, and Carlos has fostered an environment that's allowing players like Tom Fellows to really thrive. And another assist for him yesterday afternoon, taking his tally to 5 assists in 7 games, which is a pretty ludicrous return, and pretty remarkable return. And also, you have got to be quite some player to keep someone like Jed Wallace from starting in your position, because I know Jed is, perhaps respectfully to Jed, because I love him to bits, he's getting on a little bit, but you keep him out the starting 11. I know they're not the exact same player, and there's parallels to draw. As I mentioned there, his output already this season has been really, really good, and just a couple of months older than me as well. So scary. A bright future for sure.
I'm going to throw into the bus a little bit. I've got me down to talk about Alex Mower, who we're so impressed with, but I'm going to come to you because you've seen him play.
I don't want to talk about Alex Mower.
I know you don't.
Do you not remember the slap on Nathan Thompson at Fratton Park?
I do. The Oxford fans were pretty pleased, I believe, that the result went against you, and Alex Mower was a key part of that. So I'm going to throw into the bus if you don't mind. You saw him first time. I mean, I did watch the game as well. The free kick is a joke. He played amazingly in that match anyway. And actually, since then, it wasn't just that match that we've highlighted him. The game after that, I thought he was absolutely brilliant as well. He's had a fantastic month. Against Plymouth, he looked good. And even against Sheffield Wednesday, he scored again. So if you look at the last couple of weeks, it's been brilliant for him.
He's just a top-end Championship talent, though, isn't he? Like, I don't think we're experiencing anything that we wouldn't expect with Alex Mower. I mean, you know more about him than him from his Oxford days, but I just, when you're as cultured and when you've been around the block and when you know exactly what you're doing, and then you've got an absolute peach of an effort on you that you can just bag in the top corner, albeit with a little bit of help from our friends wearing the black on the pitch. But yeah, take absolutely nothing away from the quality that he's demonstrated on not only this month, but on a consistent basis right at the top end of the Championship. It just feels like it's been around forever, doesn't he? Like every conversation we've had, I know we're only talking about the Championship on this show from this year, but even us keeping half an eye, I know you'll feel the same. Like Alex Mowatt's always been a name, certainly recent Championship history, that I've always sort of seen and gone, oh yeah, he's really top end. So top player, and I just think long may it continue. And actually, when you've got that blend that West Brom have, and I know we're talking about players now and not teams, but Tom Fellows is this young and up-and-coming talent that hasn't seen an awful lot of Championship football in his career. Combine that and twin that with someone like Alex Mowat, who has spent, best part of however many years competing at the top end of the Championship. I think that's a really nice blend, and it's part of the environment that I mentioned that Carlos has managed to foster at West Brom. So, yeah, expecting big things from them this season.
I'm going to do my weekly Callum Doyle chat at the moment, it feels like.
You love a bit of Callum Doyle chat.
I do. I don't know how this has ended up into turning to a bit of a trend. I think I was asked it on a show I did last week, so I will do it again because he was just as good yesterday as he was before we did that conversation. He was brilliant against Watford, and against Derby he was absolutely brilliant too. I just think he's someone that, I think Sky put it out as a Twitter clip of another pundit was saying the same thing. He is someone that will be playing in the Premier League. Managers, they come and go, Tom, and we've had another month where they have come and gone, and that is starting at Cardiff, where look, they haven't. We could have easily
go on, use the phrase.
Underwhelming?
No. Bit in the bullet.
Oh right.
Bit in the bullet.
Right. Okay, that's the
that
phrase.
was in T-flop. If you listened, hopefully you did.
Yeah, I think. They did bite the bullet, and it was a decision that felt like it was coming. It felt inevitable. They've been really, really bad. They're on a quite scary run at the moment where things look extremely bleak. And actually, yes, they're not the only team, sorry Tom, that haven't won a game. But if you look at their performances and you look at who they've played, and yeah, just general feel around the club, it's a real shame that it's not going the way they wanted it to, and Bullett's had to lose his job for that. It's never nice to see someone lose their job. But Tom, a little word on that. It's like I said, it felt inevitable. It felt like it was going to happen. Not
been a good start at all. That is an understatement. And from the outside looking in, it was very much set up. It's a setup that was screaming for change. And actually, Cardiff fans, and I'm maybe going to extend your argument that you've led me in on there slightly by saying that Cardiff fans, I'm sure, watching this will debate to what extent there needs to be a top to bottom flush out at that place, and how much do Cardiff fans actually want that to take place? Because you ask some, you ask others, whatever, you get different answers. Obviously didn't get any better this weekend. You've already mentioned the 4-1 reverse earlier on in the show. It's interesting because Cardiff, from what some of the Cardiff fans were feeling like heading into the season, there was quite a lot of positivity about the window.
I got stick. Some
of the arrivals.
I put them down there, and there was a lot of Cardiff fans not happy with the prediction. I had them to stay up. I wasn't convinced. There was a weird feeling about them that last season they stayed up comfortably in the end, but the football wasn't great. But we said this before: football fans can be more than just a little bit fickle.
Oh, massively.
When you're winning games,
it's great.
Nothing else matters.
No, it's great. Yeah.
When you're not winning games, you can playing and they try to change it, whatever. I don't know. There was a weird feeling about it, and I think that sort of it's painted the picture.
It's painted the picture, but other than a couple of flash in the pan moments in the South Wales derby, Welsh derby, it's been really, really dire. And who knows what's coming with this upcoming appointment? We absolutely don't have any idea who it's going to be yet, and hopefully they haven't put it in place by the 22nd of October, but I'm expecting they probably will do, so that'll be perfect timing for Pompey's visit, as they'll get that little bit of a bounce. Will they get more of a bounce than Preston got? You mentioned there was a very light tremor of the trampoline. I don't know whether they're going to be breaking any springs at the Cardiff City Stadium on their trampoline, because they need a bounce. They're going to need quite a few bounces to get that ship steadied.
In terms of new managers, Steven Schumacher remains the favourite for that. Of course, Stoker will come into in a minute. They've got a new manager that we'll speak briefly on. Mark Hughes is on there. Nathan Jones has come out publicly. Too publicly, maybe.
A little bit too
still employed by Charlton, believe it or not. Speaking how much he would love to manage Cardiff, and it's his dream job. That's Nathan Jones for you. He will not shy away from honesty in the media. Alex Neil also, as I mentioned, I think that would be quite a good appointment, Alex Neil, to be honest. Brian Barry Murphy is linked to every single job, but never seems to get a job. He's a really exciting young coach, but no one knows if he's an exciting young coach. Neil Warnock, who was a bit of a, I don't know, he was mentioned quite early on as the safe pair of hands, maybe. I don't know if that's the long-term strategy. I was surprised though with Cardiff that they'd sacked him. They knew he was going to get sacked. People thought that he was going to go before the Leeds game. They let him play the Leeds game. You thought, okay, well maybe they were sort of getting it ready, sack him, appointment Monday. We're a week on. They still haven't got a manager yet. So I'm a bit worried about that preparation. I'm always intrigued to see what happens when managers, take their time to get the sack and then there isn't one.
Got to get the appointment right.
Absolutely. Next up, we're going to speak briefly about a new manager at Stoke City, and one that, let's be honest, we didn't expect to see. I mean, let's be brutally honest, I've never heard of him.
No,
Narcis Palac, who's been announced as the Stoke manager. He's now had 2 games in charge. He has lost both of them, but it is a long-term appointment. Clearly, it is one that not many people saw coming. It's clearly one that's been well researched and well analysed. It's definitely the data-driven approach. He's someone that has been linked to jobs before.
It's a modern football appointment,
It is, and it's one that when it comes off, it's genius. And you go, we found this guy from the Stoke backroom staff that not many people heard of. He's got a championship job, and look, they go on and they sort of sail into the sunset. Is this magical story that started off with, who is this guy? On the back foot of that, they could have gone safer, but
nothing wrong with an unsafe appointment.
No,
I like
teams
appointments that aren't safe. I actually prefer the appointments that aren't safe because when they pay off, they're even more satisfying.
I mean, firsthand.
Only through lived experience. I mean, might not be quite right for what Stoke have gone for, but I think it's been samey for too long, hasn't it? It's very much an environment that needs something different. So to take the risk, I think I don't know whether Stoke fans are by and large backing it, but I think it's a backable call.
I think the thing with Stoke is the proof will be in the pudding. That's probably where their mindset will be, because they can't look back and go, "That's a bad appointment," because no one has a clue what his team is going to look like. You'd want to, he's had tricky games. Harlequin are growing into this campaign. Middlesbrough are a really good side, so losing both of those isn't ideal. He's got you on Wednesday. Not you personally. He's got Portsmouth.
I'll be there personally, mate. Don't you worry. I'll give him a wave.
So we'll
on the
see.
Way out.
We'll see what happens against Pompey, and then it really starts to sort of get going. But it's thick and fast in the Championship.
Oh, mate, season starts Wednesday. I'm so excited.
I think his season probably starts.
His season starts Wednesday. Our season starts Wednesday. That's actually a really exciting game. I think that's really something to keep an eye on.
It's all going off on Wednesday,
and then Saturday is going off even more.
Absolutely. I think that's where we're going to wrap it all up.
Brief word on Saturday. How you feeling this time next week? Because I said to you before, and to give you a bit of a chance to think about that, I said to you before we started recording, and I'll probably say this publicly across all, and I actually said it on yesterday's video. If Pompey, and this is putting the pressure on a little bit, if Pompey aren't in a position whereby we have 3 points by the time Saturday 5 o'clock rolls round, I think I'm going to be really concerned. And I feel like that would be all the effort, heart, spirited, desire, performance yesterday. Be a complete waste of time if we don't now go and back it up with getting some points on the board and some wins. So I say 3 points, no matter which way it comes. If we lose to you Saturday, but we've beaten Stoke in the week, I think I'd be probably happy with that, as long as it's a minimum of 3 points.
Sure.
But you said to me earlier on that you feel like it's a bigger game for us than it is for you.
I do, and that's not. I've said that before. I did that every single game when we were in the bit of a playoff race with Lincoln last season, and Jake was getting slightly frustrated that every game was bigger for them than it was for us. And what I mean by that is, I think everybody knows.
Well, it is. Look at the league table.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Everybody knows why I'm saying that, because you haven't won a game and we've won 3, whatever it is, 3 and drawn 1. We've got 10 points. You've got 4. So the reason why it's bigger is because you need points on the board. You need a win on the board. We've spoken about this a couple of times. I think this game is always, there's a bit of a feeling about it.
It's just a magical, emotional Messino attachment, isn't it? That's what it is.
Yeah, I think a couple of years ago it switched, and it was sort of like, I think we must be the only Oxford and Pompey fans that actually get along, because at the moment there is a bit of something. I think because of the manager switch, but even then, like Messina isn't disliked by Oxford fans. I don't think Murphy on the whole is disliked. I think the move itself.
That's the problem. You got Messina, you got Murphy. Quite a lot of ammunition as a kind of.
The move itself was disliked.
Yeah.
He's not disliked because of what he's done. I think everybody's sort of calmed down around that now. And he
looking
will score,
good, by the way.
and he will score on Saturday.
Looking good.
And we will be.
I'd love it if he did.
Do you think? Also, I've been saying for weeks. I've been saying for weeks.
Your little face.
It's gonna be. And I've been saying for weeks as well. But it's perfect, isn't it? You're not gonna win a game until you play us, and then we're gonna be your first.
That's another thing I wanted. I'm glad you said that because I wanted to say it to you. Is that I think it's a better game if we beat Stoke on Wednesday night. Not saying we're going to, not saying that by any stretch, and it's going to be a really, really tough evening. But it's a better game if we do because the pressure's off for us. And the pressure's off for us because we want to win again on the Saturday. But the wins come. That would be the main thing. But if we were still waiting for that elusive win and former club of John Messina are in town, you're in town, Murphy's lining up.
Are you worried about
if we haven't won the game on Wednesday, I won't be particularly excited for Saturday. Put it that way.
Are you fearful of this Oxford United team at the moment?
At this moment in time, I'm fearful of any side because we haven't beaten anyone yet. So that's very much where we are. But then I would also flip side that and say that I'd back us to beat anyone in this league at Fratton Park, and I will continue to do. And I know we haven't scored a goal from a Pompey player at Fratton Park yet this season, but I would still twin the atmosphere with the application and everything. And you never know, Jack. It might all just come together on Saturday. So and there's a better chance if it comes together following Wednesday's outcome. I genuinely think is a better game for both sets of fans and both players.
You lose on Wednesday. Oxford know that you are under serious pressure,
and that might work in your favour,
and that could then twist it in either direction. However, we also know that if you win that game, there's going to be rhythm.
Yeah, if we win that game, we'll go right. Let's go and beat Oxford as well. So that doesn't play into your favour either.
And we've got game 2. No, we've got Luton. We don't know what situation we're going to be in. We're coming off the back of a really good result against Burnley. Luton, like I said a second ago,
a lot will change before Saturday for both sides. You're right. Yeah,
which is difficult. It's really, really difficult. But there always are good games. I feel like they are always really good games. And now I've said that, it could be 0-0. And I tell you what, 0-0 for Oxford would not be the worst result. That's what I'll say right now. I don't think that'd be good for you, but. Again, depending on what happens on Wednesday, if you beat Stoke and you get a 0-0 against Oxford, I think you'd absolutely take that.
We will remain buddies, come what may.
Sure. That's where we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, Tom. We've had a
nice
really good chat. A really good chat. We will see you after a busy October. There are games to be played, and we're playing against each other for the first time. It's the first ever jam Oxford Pompey clash in the Championship, which will be great. Also, as well, you would have seen at the start, Wood and Grounds. Make sure you go and get your Wood and Grounds J-Ward 10 for 10% off. You've seen us do a little bit of a chat about that already. Some amazing pieces of work, presents. Dare I say it, but it's getting colder outside, and I feel like it's nearly Christmas. They are the perfect gift at Christmas. We are in September. I understand I've just mentioned the C word. However, I think they are really, really
great
cool.
Christmas
and I could have got Tom that for his birthday. I didn't, and the reason why I didn't is because he's probably going to about 15 of them come December. Because I've heard that we could be getting quite lucky with a few more coming our way. Maps look great, stadiums also look great. Go and get yours. Amazing gifts, or just great pieces for your office and for your room, whatever. Anyway, until next time, I've been Jack. That's been Tom. We will see you very, very soon, and take care.